Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to something I don't normally do on Riffs, Beards, and Gear, but I like to hang out with some of my friends from time to time. I'm here with Zach from Whitechapel. You can hear the rehearsal room.
Oh yeah, right next door.
They're firing up. Great timing on our part.
Be some ambient noise in the background. It's okay.
Zach, you were currently in town on a huge tour and a headlining tour that is killing it with a bunch of really killer bands. I want to talk about the new record. I want to talk about you producing the record. I have a lot of questions about that.
Okay.
And I want to talk about guitar tones. I want to talk about all the nerdy goodness that one would expect on this channel. But we have never actually hung out before. We have been talking, we've talked for years.
Over the internet, yeah.
Over the internet.
Yeah.
I used to talk to Alex every once in a while about Kemper stuff and just guitar nerdery stuff. I have talked to you for so many years. It's weird that we're finally just now hanging out, even though we have a bunch of mutual friends.
I think we just run in the same circles a lot. It's usually how it goes in the industry. Yeah. I feel like you're in the same circles, but the odds of you meeting up, But I'm glad we made it a point this time because Metal Blade was talking about doing, press for the record and everything like that, and I was like. It's like, look, I know I don't do a lot of press and stuff like that, but I threw your name in there. I was like, I bet Ryan would want to do some stuff.
With us, okay, I was wondering.
Yeah, I threw the name in there. I was like, Ryan. I doubt.
Hell yeah.
I doubt Mr. Fricker would want to talk to us because I've been a little critical of him in the past. But I know he's having some issues with. He was having some. I wish nothing but the best for him.
Yeah. On the upswing now, though.
Wait, yeah, is he on that?
Yeah, his wife's doing great.
Perfect. That's yeah, absolutely. That's all that bull crap aside. Are we cursing on this or what?
You can say fuck if you want.
Oh shit. Okay. No, all that bullshit aside, man. Like all in good fun for me. Like I never wish anything bad like that to happen to anyone. So, but yeah, man. No. I was like, and then Metal Blade was like, yeah, we'll hit them up and see. And I didn't know if they would be down for it or not. And I'm glad you said yes, man. I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So their publicist, right, reached out and I was like, oh, I can just text Zach if you want me to.
Right? Yeah.
She was like, no. Like, let's keep it official so I can have passes for you and all that kind of stuff. I was like, okay.
Yeah. I mean,
that's fine.
Either way would have been fine, but,
I get it. Everyone has a job to do.
I also didn't want to overreach. You know what I'm saying? As far as I wanted you to be like,
never,
but cool with it. But
never.
But thank you for having me.
So I had an interesting conversation with our dear friend Ben Eller. The last time I saw him, we were hanging out at Sweetwater, and he told me basically what the scene was like when Whitechapel first kind of started really getting going. And from his perspective, the scene was a whole bunch of different kinds of bands stylistically. Everyone was kind of being all sorts of different versions of metalcore and metal and heavy kind of stuff. And he described you guys coming out as an atomic bomb had gone off in the area. And then all of a sudden, all the bands were wanting to kind of copy your guys' sound, which was extreme in kind of a new way. And my through line for this is your newest album, your new album, Hymns and Dissonance, is kind of, there's a lot of elements of your earlier material, I feel like, and the aggression, the speed. Was that intentional?
I mean, everyone's kind of gonna, say like, oh, they went back to their roots because, that's just the world. That's the way, because, it was like it's like they couldn't keep doing it because they weren't making it the other way. But I was like, I beg to differ. We were just kind of doing what we want, and we were doing just fine. But
yeah,
but what I've been saying, like to most people when they ask that question, and this is what we do. It's what we've done for every record. It's what everyone is feeling. If everyone is feeling a Valley or a Kin, that's what they get. Like in the band. And this time around, it was like these last two albums were pretty serious. They were emotionally serious.
Yeah.
Kin was a difficult album to get through, and Ben had a big chunk of that one as far as the materials goes and everything, and it was taxing to do. And so this time I was like, let's just have some fun. We're doing it ourselves. Let's write what we're good at. Here we are.
It sounds like you guys are having a ton of fun. It sounds to me like there was time spent on the songs,
Yes.
crafting, right? And it's interesting because you guys are no longer in that, in the first couple of albums, it's tour a record, come home, record a record,
Yeah.
go tour that record, come home, right? There's all that pressure and go, 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 go.
They still want us to do that way.
Of course, but you guys have now realized you don't have to do that.
Well, it's weird. We're in a weird spot because, like, I think you still got to have something to give people because it's it's quantity over quality now
Sure.
most of the time, and it's unfortunate. But it's like, yeah, we had a timeline for this, but we took our time. And writing the songs at this point, you go back and listen to our first 3 albums, it's a lot of just riff, 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 heavy part, riff, riff. Like, it was fun. It was like, it was, it was energetic, and it was like, you could tell it was like, hey, it was youthful in a sense.
Sure.
But now it's like, let's take the elements of that and let's craft it better, which is where we did, we can still repeat some parts, but if we kind of have just, a random riff in the song that works, and you walk away from this for a week and come back and your first impression is, yes, that works. That's the most important thing ever. And I, like the first, we would take our time and come back to a song like a week later, and whenever we listen back through it, whatever stands out is it's like, stop the song. Let's work on that.
Cool.
That's because, like, if it makes you second guess it on that first impression run through again, then you need to stop and go through it again. So
Interesting.
yeah.
So, as the producer, did you ever experience something where, so a huge reason that bands work with someone on the outside is there is this kind of imaginary wall. And my point is, like, when I was working with my former band, they would never respect me and my decisions as much as someone from the outside, because how could they? Because they've seen you drunk at 3 a.m.
Right.
outside the bus, and they've seen you have to shit in the middle of the fucking woods
Yeah,
because
it's true.
you know what I mean? Like those kinds of normal on tour, spent a lot of time together things. They see you as a brother, not as an authoritarian figure.
Yeah, there is. I know exactly what you're saying too, because it's like, I had my stint there at the beginning of this band. Like, I was a mess. I drank a lot.
Sure.
And I think it took me really them seeing me battening down over the past, like, decade, if not longer. Like, I haven't officially been drunk in probably over a decade. Like, I mean,
Whoa,
a lot of drinks for me, a wild night for me is, 2 or 3 beers anymore. And I
Sure.
just, I'm just kind of, I'm not like straight edge by any means, but alcoholism is just something that I'm sick and tired of.
Sure.
So
Aged out of it.
yeah. And, and then, with me doing more of my own studio stuff because of necessity for the band, but then it was like, something that I've always been, intrigued by, and then, really digging in at my house and building what I can build to make it an actual studio. It wasn't just a thing like, hey, let's just let me do it this album. I think it had to step up to that. I had to just gradually be like, I think he can handle this.
So it was a trust building exercise.
Correct. That's a good way to put it. It was definitely a trust building exercise, I feel like. And I think, they took a chance still, but it's also like they know that I know what the band needs.
Sure.
They know that, and they know also, it's not like, it's also not, it's still kind of a democracy in the sense that, like, even if I say, but the whole band says they like it, there's probably a reason the whole band says they like it. And then I'm just like, cool, that's what we need.
Yeah.
Because there's times when a producer will say, no, I'm right, and we should do it this way, and everybody kind of gives in. Turns out he wasn't that right exactly, but the whole band knows what the band needs to sound like. So if there was a time when it was like, maybe I was questioning something and everybody else thought it was good, then I had to trust them too. So
Sure.
that worked out in that sense. But most of the time it was like, you can do that better. Let's try that differently. Just really using what I think should be better and then my standard, that I would do for any other band. So
How do you feel about when you're in the moment when you're trying to be creative or someone else is being creative and you have your producer hat on? I am always very cognizant of we try it all. If you have an idea, we're gonna try it. Now, if we don't like it, we did try it, and then it kind of ends there. But one of my worst experiences in the studio was our producer just going, "That would be stupid if we did that. We're not doing that," and then moving on. I'm like, bro,
I hate that.
I
I
hate.
hate
So
that.
I feel like you being on both sides is kind of an advantage, right? So you know what it's like to be in either seat.
And that's yeah, and but it also too, if a producer said that to me, I'd be like, "Get bent, we're paying you." You know, like sorry,
Yeah.
dude. Like there are good producers out there that would. I'm not saying they couldn't take our record and make it better. I'm not saying that. I'm saying like we do know what we need to sound like, and at this point, we can trust if a producer says something that's like, "Nah." It's like I think at this point if we had a producer. It's like, look, I know you're a big dick and we're paying you, but that ain't it. It's like
I feel like at this point, I mean, this is your 8th album, if
ninth,
I'm
ninth album.
ninth
Yeah, ninth.
ninth
Yeah.
album. This far into the process, I have to imagine you guys have been there, done that as far
Yes.
as in the studio situations.
Yes. And there's a line of just like trusting your gut with your music and then knowing when to, draw the line too. Cause like,
Sure.
you know, when Phil would try singing, it felt right. You would know if it was just like if Phil just broke out in some really poppy metalcore kind of singing or something like that, it'd be like, okay, no, obviously, it
Of
ain't gonna
course.
work. But something in all of us would have said that doesn't work. But it never struck us that way. Even when we were kind of tiptoeing in it, it was like, okay, this kind of works. And if a producer says something that's like that he wants to try and it really just rubs us the wrong way in the sense that this doesn't work for our band. And I know you're trying
Right.
to create and do your thing with this band, but we know at this point, 9 albums in, like, hey, you got to trust us some too. I feel like it's the same with every producer
Sure.
scenario, and
Sure.
and you don't know this person that well, and you got to trust them. You're paying them. Like it's scary, but I think that's why we kept going back to Lewis too. Because like we know Mark really well, and
Shout
we
out to
know
Mark.
yeah, Mr. Lewis, Mr. Mark Lewis, and I owe Mark Lewis and Jason Sukoff a lot because over time I did learn a lot from them. I learned it's like a level of not letting things slide. Like
How
making.
how how much do you think they contributed to helping the band kind of find their way as far as the sonic character of what you guys do in the early days?
I think
Not that they decide what you sound
correct.
like,
Well, I
but
mean,
going like, "Hey, you know what? You should try this." And you going, "Oh,"
y-
and then that
well, that's just it. I think a lot of times as time went on, like it was a discovery experience for both of us. Because like when Mark would come, it would be, all right, let's dig into guitar tones for a week straight and just
hell
like try
yeah.
a bunch of different stuff. And I mean, for the Valley, man, Mark and I, we spent like 2 weeks maybe just going through cabs, changing out
Oh, I
speakers,
love
like
that.
we're all the way
Yeah.
down to like just trying different preamps and V1 and V2 just to try it in the heads and you know it pays off in the end because not only did you get through all that, but now you have all that on record and you know what certain speakers are going to sound like
Mhm.
and certain cabs in that position with that
Right.
mic. So it's like once you do it, it's like it gives you a whole perspective on you know where you can be like, okay, I got to do this band. This is kind of the sound. Let's use an 8 ohm Mesa Voice V30 in a Marshall cab,
Sure.
because it'll make it sound the Marshall cabs has different sonic characteristics as
Of
opposed to a
course.
Mesa cab.
Of course it does.
And so so it was a lot of discovery with Mark along with him as well. But uh, on the other side of the coin, Mark teaching us, especially me, about just like really, really like not settling and really just because you always feel rushed. As I was saying,
Of course you do.
yeah, and if I have clients anymore nowadays, I'll be like, look, it's a flat rate. Let's just get it done to where everybody's comfortable and happy. That's the whole point. Like, there's no point in rushing through this shit. Let's just take our time and do it right. And you also learn in that scenario how to bring something out of someone that has never done it that way before. Like,
Mhm.
you might have to break stuff down for someone and be like, here, try it like this, try these notes instead, et cetera, et cetera. And I had this one band that came in and they wanted to do this super techy material, and they wanted it to sound like Obscura in the sense, like, the super tech, like, kind of.
Okay.
And I'm like, all right, that's, I hope you got your shit together on playing, but okay, here we go. And they had never tracked like that before. They weren't aware of how precise it had to be. So it was
Yeah.
a painful process, but it turned out great. But I mean, I'm talking like getting into the track, like, you know, play like half a bar 4 times in a row.
Sure.
Yeah, dude, it took such a long time, but they learned, and I learned how to tell a band we're not going to do it that way. Yeah, yeah.
Do you do you think this is a random question, but do you think uh the way we consume material as guitarists, and I'm talking about the Instagram videos and all that kind of stuff, have you seen or do you think that affects and creates those situations of people coming into an actual studio setting and working with someone in the real world and then going, "Oh shit," like,
I 100% agree that, like, as I've always said, the internet, social media is a blessing and a curse. And I think people see these things on the internet, with the guitars and everything, and they're like, "Oh, it must not be that hard," And you got to think, when you didn't know any better, you didn't know any better. I mean,
you don't know what you don't know?
yeah, exactly. And so, they get in there and they're just like, they don't understand what it takes to really get,
Yeah.
that level of craftsmanship and musicianship to get that sound and what it takes. And it's a big reality check for some people, I think. And luckily the internet also, people that care enough will research something to the point where it's like, oh, it's not that easy.
It's a wonderful teaching
Yeah,
tool.
exactly. And that's the other plus part about it, man. Because, like, I you know the internet is dog shit for most of the things, like just trying to make everyone take the easy way out. But
Yeah, and I think it gives everyone a false sense of what is the norm,
yes,
and I think a lot of young guitarists don't really realize, Instagram is the greatest hits. You are seeing the best,
that's true. Yeah,
only the best of what anyone has to offer.
offer
That's
correct.
not everyday normal
No, and
stuff.
that's why, like, when people are like, I don't see why those musicians just don't, post all the time on social media and everything. I'm just like, because that's it. Like, it's like that. I have more to offer than that, and I can't sit down and do it, like, for 4 hours a day. It's not my job. And
No.
if I could post more and not be like, because I'm picky about it. Like, I want it to be presented good, and some people can just do it every day and be fine with it. And
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 we
they,
hate those people.
yeah, right. Ben Eller, no,
Yeah.
no, we don't hate Ben Eller at all.
Shout out to Ben.
Yes, sir. One of the best human beings ever. But
Yes.
no, that motherfucker is just too talented anyway. But
And he has the best hair
yes, yes.
on the planet. He's handsome. He's funny.
Dude, yeah.
You disgust us,
Yes,
Ben
yes, you
Eller.
are a disgusting human being. Yes, especially his playing. God,
Yeah, right?
yeah. That was cool. The whole Macedon thing. I was real stoked for him about that.
I I have never been so happy for one of my friends than that situation because when you're able to just sit back and go, that is the coolest fucking thing I've ever seen. That's just a real blessing in order to just even kind of be near the epicenter of that.
Yeah, and if anybody deserved it, it's him, because it really is one of his favorite bands. The only other band that, there's Mastodon and Meshuggah. Like Eller could
Yeah,
do both of them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
sure.
Eller could. And I was joking with him, and he was, he said, I was asking him how it went, and he was like, "It was killer, man. It was so much fun." I go, "Well, just, if Frederick ever takes time off again, I'd wait for that call. You never know." So
You
yeah,
you
you
never
never know.
know.
Yeah. God, what a band.
Yeah,
Both those
right?
bands, but we did that. Have you got to see Meshuggah live yet?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I saw them on the first time I saw them was on the Obzen tour.
Oh shit. So they played my hometown with Tool back when they used to tour a tool.
Sheesh.
Yeah, this is back in like, I guess, uh,
90s, early 2000s?
yeah, it was around that time. It was early 2000s. So that was New Millennium
Yeah.
Cyanide or Chaos Sphere.
There
There's
you
that
go.
album and Destroy, Race, and Prove and all that stuff. And I had a ticket, but my mom wouldn't let me go. So I had to miss them. But
Wow, Mom.
yeah, I know. Yeah. But
Sheesh.
at this point, though, the first time I saw him was Soundwave in Australia. And oddly enough, this was around Austin too, and when it came out. And we had, how Soundwave did the Sidewave shows where
Mhm.
it's like, club shows. Like, oddly enough, our Sidewave shows were us, It Dies Today, and Meshuggah. It was a really weird,
Whoa.
yeah, right? It's a really weird lineup. But so it was cool getting to see them at the festival and then see them in a club too. And then do the tour with them too. That was, dude, I watched them almost every night, man. I just couldn't get enough. And then In Flames, like that, dude, that tour. When Alex said we got that offer, I was like, I don't care what we're doing. We got to do it. Because we were supposed to be writing the record.
Gotta do it.
Yeah, we had to do that tour, man. It was, two of the bands that changed my life. So,
Yeah, actually, that show where I first saw them was at the Showbox.
oh shit.
And that was the night I met Jeff Loomis and Keith Marrow as well.
Were they just hanging out there watching, or were they,
Mhm.
okay. They didn't ever, those two didn't ever play in a band together, did they?
The
Keith
Concrete
and-
Dystopia.
That's right.
Years
that was,
later.
and the Rudinger was in that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark Lewis did that one.
That's right.
Actually, yeah, he did. I
That's
forgot
right.
about that.
But yeah, this was years before
Right.
that. But I was like, hey, like
Yeah.
Jeff was getting clobbered.
Oh, I'm sure, dude.
And no one really knew who Keith was yet. And he was at the bar just drinking a beer. I went, hey, man,
I know you too.
are you Keith? He's like,
Dude.
yes, I am.
Loomis kind of is one of those guys that changed my life too, because when I was like 18, I was working at the movie theater at the time with a few of my friends, and in Atlanta we were going to go see Demu. So
Okay,
we were going to
yeah.
drive from Knoxville to Atlanta to see Demu, and that lineup was so sick. It was Hypocrisy, Nevermore,
Whew.
Children of Bodom, and Demu. So
What?
yeah,
Was
so
that the tour?
that was the
lineup?
tour. That was the tour.
Jeez.
So I'd never heard of. I knew who Hypocrisy was, and live they were insanely heavy. It was nuts.
Yeah.
I didn't know who Nevermore was at the time, but I saw this guy come out and start ripping on an LTD that I had, like a 7-string LTD that I
Yeah.
had. The is it the H207? I think
That sounds right.
the old one with the curved headstock. I'm
Yeah.
like, he's out there ripping on that guitar. I'm just like, I have that 7-string. And he starts playing. I'm like, God damn, this motherfucker. Like, he's just one of the guys that he's just a riffer. He can lead. He can do leads all day long, but he just has riffs. Same thing with, it was like Pat from Cannibal. Just has riffs.
Yes, he
And
does.
like that, I was a Nevermore fan ever since then. And then Bodum and Demu, of course, like they were just, that show was life changing. But that was the first time I'd seen Loomis, and ever since then I was a fan of him. He's just it's like Wes we were talking about. It's just disgustingly good,
Yep.
Just one of those people that just naturally gifted at doing what they do. And it's like, and it's a bummer about Pat too. I wish things would have worked out with him and Cannibal at some point, but Pat was just, he just had the riffs, man. He just had he had a vibe to him. And he even had, like you said, he had some swing too. Like, he had some swing even in death metal riffs, you know what I'm saying? So it's like,
I feel like the swing is the part that a lot of younger players missed.
yes.
They are focused on technicality, but honestly, it's not about being perfect. It's about feeling great. And it's
Yes.
about just
Well,
doing the
Well, and feeling the music to begin with. Like, when we were younger, all I had to learn from, we'll take it back a little bit more. So I started playing violin in 2nd grade.
whoa,
So,
really?
yeah, and I played it all the way through high school. So that
Whoa,
that gave
let's
me
talk
my-
about that for a second.
Well, I was fine at it. I just didn't love it. I just wanted to do it.
you
at
weren't
first.
in love with
Yeah,
it,
I
but
wasn't-
you kind of
but
enjoyed it.
I was in love with it at first, and then as time went on, like 5th grade rolled around, and when I'd go to take violin lessons, I'd pick up my teacher. He would accompany me on guitar, but then I'd pick up his guitar sometimes and mess with it. And
Whoa.
yeah, so that's why it got me into guitar, and I started liking it more. And I sounded everything by ear at first because I didn't have tabs. We didn't have a computer yet in my house. Like, so like all the like the only thing I was listening to at the time was like Metallica. My brother had the Black album, so I would like sound that out on guitar. And luckily, doing the violin and all through high school, it developed my ear for tone and pitch and stuff like
Oh,
that.
I
And
bet it
that's
did.
so important. Like I
Wow.
feel
I'm
like a
so
lot of
jealous.
well, you can still develop
Dang.
it, but it just takes a little practice. But
No, I'm too lazy now. Too
too
old.
lazy. No, I'm not like a Rick Beato or his kid who's a you know an
Yeah.
alien apparently because that kid can just be blindfolded and just nail what the pitch is. But it's just like I just never had a problem like listening to something and playing it and sounding it out. And that was because of starting early with music and because I would listen to tapes and rewind it over and over again and try to learn how to play it. Like
Yep.
I had an Old Man's
I did
Child
that.
tape and I would just like rewind it over and over and try to sound out these riffs that he was playing. And like I had to discover how to do these chords that I had no idea.
Yeah.
No one was teaching me this shit.
We
So
had the radio
yes,
here,
exactly.
and you record the radio, and then you'd play it back, and my
Yep.
friends would say, "Okay, start playing that," not knowing what tuning it's
Yeah.
in or anything.
No tuning, no like
Nope.
okay, this is a power chord. That's all I got. Let's go.
And then if you happen to go over to grandma's house or a friend's house that had cable, you saw the MTV video,
Oh yeah.
and then you're watching how the hell is that? What
Right.
is what is
What's he
that?
doing?
What?
Luckily,
Yeah.
my mom was really cool in the sense that like she's always been super eclectic music wise, and dad was in a lot of classic rock, but mom liked everything. And she would record stints of music videos from MTV, and like just to occupy us sometimes while she was doing stuff around the house, she'd put these tapes in,
That's so
and it was like
cool.
Michael Jackson, Poison, Motley Crue, all these things, and like and
What a great idea.
yeah, and I got to see all this stuff growing up, like Unskinny Bop, like by Poison, like what a
Yeah.
fucking song to begin with, and then I'm like getting exposed to all this music, and
Yeah.
that fueled a lot of fire, man. I know we're kind of getting off
Do you have
on a tangent.
do you have any pillars of favorite albums that are always just go to for you? Whether that's heavy, not heavy, anything. Are there any handful of albums that you just go front to back, unskippable? That is always forever on my proverbial iPod.
Yes, I mean, yeah, of course, 100%. It's just hard to, it's hard to. It's not like I have a million of them, but like
Mine's back. Black and Black,
so,
right?
see, I found AC/DC later on. They were around all the time, but like
Sure.
I didn't dig into them and like Deep Purple until later on in life.
Yep.
And I was like, Deep Purple. Um, but when I was younger, I think, as you get older, things change too. But when I was younger, it was definitely Master and Demanufacture by Fear Factory. Like when I was
Cool.
younger, yeah. So, but as I got older, like now, man, dude, Load. I don't know what it is about Load. Maybe minus 2 songs on that album. I love that album. I do not know why. I do not know what it is about that album.
That's so funny you say that. A buddy of mine, he maintains that it's his favorite Metallica album. He has said that for 20 years. I think it's a lot of nostalgia. I actually was having a conversation with him very recently, like last week, and I went back and listened to Load and Reload for the first time
And forever.
in maybe 20 years. Bangs.
Dude, it's unreal.
The shit slaps.
Dude,
Dude, the songs are good.
I think people literally just wrote it off right away because like this is not Metallica. It's just like most people when they heard the
Well,
Black album, like they were just it's not fast enough.
so I was only 11 when the Black album came out, but I was very much I'd been playing guitar for 2 years when Load came out, and at that time it was a total.
Oh, 100%.
A buddy of mine who's a little bit older than me was a thrash metal diehard in the 80s, and he described it to me like this. He was like, first you have Ride the Lightning, then you have Master of Puppets, right? And the bar just keeps going higher and higher and
Right.
higher. And then you have Justice for All, and you're
Oh.
like, oh
What an album.
my God, what is this band gonna do? And then all of a sudden you have Inner Light, Exit,
Yeah.
like you have Enter Sandman. And he was like, it's not that wasn't good, but it's diving off a creative cliff when you're a 17-year-old, metal guitar player wanting the fastest, hardest shit ever. He was like, the Black album was just so disappointing. He loves it now,
Yeah.
but he was like, at that time, horrible.
See, that was the first thing I heard though, and then I went backwards.
Same.
So like that
Same.
that was a gateway album for me for a lot of people, as far as like the stepping stone from like maybe not so aggressive music to aggressive music. And at the time, that Black album, like again, I thank my brother for this because he's the one that had it and was the big Metallica fan. And I'd had the only thing I'd been listening to before that was, I was in 4th or 5th grade, was the fucking Labyrinth soundtrack because I love David Bowie. And
I mean, David Bowie's sick.
The Top Gun soundtrack. So, Kenny
Ooh.
Loggins, Cheap Trick, stuff like that. So I was obsessed with that as a kid. And then my the Mortal Kombat movie came out. I
Yeah.
was obsessed with the video game.
Saw it in theaters.
Saw it in theaters 3 times.
Whoa.
Because I was obsessed with it, man. And so I wanted the soundtrack because the theme song was like my favorite thing ever.
Mhm.
Well, soundtrack had Fear Factory on it, had Napalm Death on it, Typo,
That's right.
like Gravity Kills, like all these bands on there that I'd never heard music like that before in my life. And I put it on and I'm like, what is this? And I just fell in love with all this shit that I'd never, like Fear Factory blew my mind. Like I was just like, I'd never heard music that aggressive, and then after that, it was like game over. And that's when the internet finally started kind of rolling around and like we got a computer finally. And then I discovered like black metal and,
Sure.
all that shit. I discovered Old Man's Child and Naglfar, like bands like that. And it's just downhill from there, man.
Why don't, I mean, I know why soundtracks don't really exist like they used to. I feel like the 90s movie soundtracks were such a gateway for so many people. Like, I remember the Crow soundtrack,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Nine Inch Nails, Pantera.
Yeah.
Like, who? What is this?
If I had to guess, this is just I don't know much about the movie industry, but if I had to guess, it's because it's cheaper to probably get someone to compose stuff on a computer now that sounds like a real orchestra, as
Sure.
opposed to getting and licensing for all these
Sure.
big artists and bands, or getting, I don't know how much it costs to have a real orchestra, but probably I would say to get a legit orchestra and to get a dude to compose what
Quite a
you
bit.
want, probably quite a bit of damn money. So it's like, I guess I don't know what whether you're a Marvel nerd or not, but like the uh Guardians of the Galaxy, they always had like these great, all the soundtracks for those were great. They had all these old
Yeah,
bands
they
on
were.
there, and I bet they paid a pretty penny for the licensing on those and
I
shit.
bet they did. My understanding is because if you notice, most of the 90s soundtracks were of younger bands, not legacy bands
True.
like Guardians of the Galaxy. I saw an interview with Richie Patrick Filter, and he said like the process was the record company would come to you and just go, hey, you got an extra song that didn't make the record, and we'll just use that, and you'll get X amount of points on it. And you knew the soundtrack itself would go platinum.
Right.
So the exposure was always worth it, but you
it.
wouldn't get paid shit.
I mean it's like you'd always find these underground songs on random soundtracks, like Escape from L.A. Escape from L.A. had these like
Gravity Kills, dude.
Yeah, Gravity Kills was on there, and Zombie. What it was? I think it was either a Rob Zombie song or a White Zombie song, but it was just the theme song. I think he wrote that for that because it was like Escape L.A. Like,
I think you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then the Spawn soundtrack, I guess, had some stuff.
Oh
on
my
it too.
God.
Yeah.
The mashups?
Yeah.
Like, what did that
Yeah.
cost?
Yeah, right.
Crystal Method and Filter?
Yeah,
I loved that soundtrack.
dude, I used to have a few Crystal Method albums as a kid. I still got it in my CD booklet, actually.
I loved Crystal Method.
Yeah, and
That shit was awesome.
Oh yeah. That's
It was heavy, but not guitar heavy.
No, exactly. And that's someone's gonna quote that and take it out of context.
Yeah, 100%. I love Crystal Meth. Id. No, yeah, the soundtracks back in the day were so sick.
I just felt like people cared more about the soundtrack in a sense, but maybe we're getting old. I don't know, but like it's you got to think about it sometimes. Like your parents were probably listening to your music, going, "What the fuck?" Like
100%.
yeah. And then we're hearing like all the new stuff and going, "What the fuck?" But shit is gonna change inevitably. People are all bummed about AI being and everything, and what Naveen Koperweiss drums for
Yeah.
Entheos and stuff. Incredible drummer. Dude is talented beyond talented. we had a little conversation on Facebook. He wishes real drums were more alive and more people would play more stuff. And I'm like, I agree with you, man. I really do. But we kind of got to meet in the middle on because I don't think this stuff's going away. Now, granted, it comes in
Oh,
waves.
are you like as opposed to like being sampled and
Yeah,
replaced and
sampled,
layered and all that
replaced,
kind of
layered,
stuff?
totally programmed.
That's yeah.
I don't let it keep me from enjoying music.
No.
But everyone's different though, because like if you're listening straight for just the drums to enjoy the music, like Naveen might be, then yes, I understand. But I'm listening to the music as a whole. Like I don't, I'm sure he is too. But like, it's like yeah, if the drums are fake, okay. But if the song's good, I don't care.
It's
most of the time.
The sample thing is tough because for me, it was never real. It was never real.
Right.
Those Pantera records are all samples.
Yeah.
They are being triggered.
AC/DC records.
Dude, they were using pitch effects on the bottom snare mic to add thickness and all this kind of stuff.
Dude, the trickery that they did on some of these albums, you will never know the extent of it.
Absolutely.
I think we've talked about that before. Like it's just they'll tell you one thing, but I guarantee you a lot more went into it.
And I love it when I get comments on my mixed breakdown videos of, oh, this should be more natural. Like, bro, do you know how edited and Justice for All is? Large didn't play like that.
No. And here's the thing, man. It's like, again, the internet is a wonderful and shitty place in the sense that people like that can make the comment without researching it first, but they can also go research it and learn that that there's a lot of trickery when it comes to studio stuff. And like my approach to it with engineering is like, we have a sound in mind. This isn't doing it. Let's find every way possible to get that sound.
How do we get there?
How do we get there? And you'll have to do some wild shit sometimes, man. And it's worth it in the end. And people ask me like, is there ever too much like in front of you in your signal chain? I'll go, no, whatever gets you there. Whatever gets you to the sound you're trying to get, and doesn't take away from what you're trying to do as a whole. But if it has fucking 8 pedals in front of it and it's what it is, who cares?
Tell me the craziest signal chain you've ever had in the studio personally, and the simplest signal chain you've ever had in the studio personally.
Let's see here,
because Lewis has told me some. He's like, oh yeah, we use this modded head with this pedal with this cab and these 3 mics and these.
I think
what?
The simplest one I've ever had was literally legit 800, just rocking through a greenback cab, loud as fuck, and a SG.
Hell yeah!
And it was just, I don't need to do anything to this. It sounds great.
That's the sound.
Yeah, that's the sound, and that's what they were going for. So that was super simple. The most complex, well, I think the most complex is when I'm just being a mad scientist and trying stuff out for myself. But for an album, I'd probably say this last album we did was probably the most like kind of wild. It had, like, we were kind of going for that Cannibal Corpse tone, but when you're using MT2 by itself, distortion pedal, it can be real not clean, and like you get busy with it, it can.
Yeah.
So we had to clean up the front end of it, and so there was a lot of things that went into cleaning up the front end to make that MT2 like clean up a lot. And all it is your DI on the front end. You've got to manipulate it on the way into the pedal, take out certain frequencies, put frequencies in. Like there was EQ pedals like the Para EQ. And,
like the Empress or something.
Yeah, Empress, and then Peepers makes the Far Q, which was really great too. But I've kind of started applying that to a lot of, especially like high gain metal mixes, where I'll kind of manipulate the DI on the way in, and before it hits the main parts of the signal chain. But I'll always take a raw sample of the DI because you never know. But,
of course,
yeah. That's remember that, kids. Practice always taking a raw DI. Always, you never know. I was talking to myself, I was like, maybe I should take the head DI too, just in case. But I was like, fuck it. I want this cab captured. I want it to be
commit,
what it is.
Baby.
Yes, commit. I'm not going to pull it. Like, I'm going to commit. This is what we're doing for the album. And
is that what you did for this album?
Yeah. It was all. I mean, it was HM2 with getting some of those frequencies out of the front end, using a dirty tree in front of it on the TC side, but
Whoa.
it wasn't cranked.
Just cracked?
Just yeah, and it was just taking out enough. It made it twangy enough. You know how that TC will make
Yeah.
it twangy to where it set well with the MT2. And yeah,
Whoa.
so
Wait, so you did a dirty tree into a metal zone,
yeah,
and the dirty tree is just to basically fine tune or tune the metal zone
correct.
front end.
Yes.
And then what amp were you going into
So
predominantly?
that was a rectifier, the Rack G,
It was the Rev G rectifier?
but a VHT pit or deliverance power section.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, because the Mesa was too flubby, it's too loose.
I mean,
And
VHTs.
it's stiffer than, I mean, you can't get it to fucking move. It's immovable. So
Yeah.
it's like the two together was just like, there it is. It's perfect, you know. So
Whoa.
we tried the Herbert power section, which is a monster.
I love my Herbert.
It's a fantastic. It's a
Oh,
godly head, but it was a little too. You know how the diesel has this weird. It's just a weird tone altogether. It either works or it doesn't.
that kind of low mid shifted
Yes.
thing.
Yeah, and it always sounds like it's pushing air no matter
Yes.
what. It's a real cool sound, but the VHT just had a little more. You know, it has the 88s in it, and it had a little more zazz up top, and it was just a little tighter and a little more mids. So it just worked a little better and get a little more clarity out of the guitar tone, which is funny to say considering what it is. But
yeah, right.
but it took work to get there. I was like, it's got to be something special for this album. You know,
What cab were you going into?
that was a Marshall 1960
Damn Marshalls.
vintage cab. Yeah, yeah, and
So sick.
we did. I know Mark will probably kill me for this, but not because I'm telling something like Mark's like he loves just the 57, like
Yeah.
and you get a good tone out of 57, you don't need much. He still blends mics and stuff, but like I definitely cheated a little. I got the 57 dead center and not exactly the Fredman thing. I wasn't doing that exact degree. I just moved it until I got it where I wanted it.
I've done that myself, and I thought it was killer.
It gets all the frequencies out I don't want really,
Yeah.
and it makes it to where I can like add some top end without taking the shit that I have to notch out later. So like, I got it where I wanted. I had two unidynes, and I got it where I wanted with the angle. And then I was like, but you know what? For fun, I want it to have some of that pressure, some of that low end that you don't really get with the 57s.
Mhm.
I got a D6.
Whoa.
And so here's the center 57 right over the dust cap there. Put a D6 right beside it. And then I made sure, I played around with the phase a little bit, looked at the phase, zoomed in, looked at the phase just to make sure everything's pretty
Are you
close.
using a dynamo or something, or what are you doing? Are you going in there and moving?
I initially start with the dynamo to get a spot, and then the bad part about the dynamo I have with at the moment I don't have the attachment that how they have the attachment now where you can move it
Yes.
and it doesn't
Yes.
knock. So I don't have that attachment. So not yet. So when I was getting the angle just right, I had to move it by hand until I got it.
Sure.
But whatever. It got to where I wanted it, and then the D6. I only had to nudge it a few times because I only wanted it there for more of that pressure, that push air pressure.
Okay.
And so it's minimal in the mix, and I had to literally rolled off up to it was like high passed up to maybe I think it's about 50, 60, 80, somewhere around there, and then low passed up to 200. So it's just like
Oh, so you were only using.
yeah, I just wanted that in there a little bit sometimes to make it
That's good.
So it's like what we were talking about earlier, you got to do something to get it there, to get what you have in mind, and that's what I had to do to get it there. And I tried, there's always the trying different cabs, different speakers, different all that crap, but it was between that Marshall 16-ohm and then a Mesa. You can't go wrong with the Mesa 8-ohm. Sometimes it just works. That speaker just, if you have a good one, it just does great. But the leads were all just in the same cab above the rhythm tone speaker. There was a Creamback 65 16-ohm.
Love that speaker.
Killer speaker for leads too. And I had this 57 that you ever heard of Crimson Audio?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I have two 57s. One has the orange mod, one has the yellow one.
Okay.
The yellow one for leads is just it's my thing. I just love it for leads, and that's what I use for all the leads on the album for the
Damn.
tone. And most of the leads were actually Wes Hauck's Egnator 800. He let me borrow it.
What?
Yeah, yeah. It's this Egnator modded 800 he has, and it's got the mod, like you can have the regular 800 side, then you have like this mid scoop thing and this mid boost thing, but it's a cool head, and it has a density knob on the back, like that adds a little
Cool.
oomph. But I used just the 800 side of it though, and that was all the leads with the spooky vibes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Shout out to Spooky Vibes.
yeah. Dan, I actually met him last night. He's Portland.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of the leads. It was either that, depending on the guitar we were using, it was either that with like the, some leads we use that Hanneman guitar that Alex has, EMGs, hard to go wrong, if they're a Marshall, yeah. And then for the kind of moodier stuff, a little drier, it was Savage's PRS, and I feel like PRS has mastered that low output sound of a pickup. Like,
Agree.
it's just like you can't beat it, and he has this gorgeous McCarthy that it just nothing sounds like it. It's just a great guitar, and for a lot of the moodier stuff, like the outro track that has some of the moodier leads over it, it was the same Marshall head, but we'd either use like a full tone OCD or a hell, sometimes it was just the head distortion, like just because it just sounded good. So
That's cool.
but yeah, we didn't go ham, but it was just like, let's just get it right, get something that we know works, but also make it special. And I didn't want to use the same mics for leads or same speaker because at that point it's a little boring.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you double tracking or quad tracking for the main rhythms?
We quad tracked a few parts here and there, so
Like maybe for choruses to lift them up, make them bigger, heavier, where applicable.
but we were quad tracking with like an H and two tone most of the time. So there's ignorant parts on the
Jesus.
album. If you listen close, you'll hear H and two tones come in, like in the beginning of like even the beginning of the album, Prisoner, when it kicks in, the dun dun dun, there's HM10 or that, and then the following song, the title track, when it finally comes into after the fast part, and then it starts going into the dun 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 dun. There's HM2s under that too, so it's like it's like let's just make it ignorant, and because HM2 by itself obviously is a little messy,
Of course.
yeah, and but it's so much fun under shit, dude. And you just make it. It's like you listen to the Dismember and like Entomb shit, and you're like, it just sounds mean already because it's HM2 guitar tone.
I haven't done that with an HM2. I have done that with some fuzz pedals.
Right.
Going for kind of the same flavor. I haven't tried that with the HM2 in that layering kind of fashion.
You pick your parts.
Under.
You pick your parts.
Yeah,
and
okay.
And we would switch. We were using the red channel on the Rev. The Rectifier, but for just to change it up a little, we'd use the orange channel for the HM2 stuff.
Sure.
And just get a little different sound. And
Lewis let you use the red channel?
yeah, right.
Wow.
Hey, man, we went back and forth, and fuck it, that's what Cannibal used. They used
That's
the red
right.
channel, and I was like, this is the sound we're going for in a sense, but we're gonna chapelize it. So, that was just like, fuck it. It's just it is a little spongier, but it's just aggressive, and it just had the thing.
I like that though.
Yeah, I do too. And the orange has its benefits as well, but again, Lewis is gonna Lewis, and then I'm gonna do my thing.
Lewis is gonna Lewis. Do you have? I don't want to keep it too long because you do have a show to play
at some point.
And do you have a personal favorite guitar tone from a Whitechapel album? If you had to pick one to have, what would you pick?
I'm gonna exclude the most recent one because that'd be biased. But I mean, but I think the Valley. The Valley had some of my favorite. It was just unique. It was different.
I agree.
It had it just kind of had an anger to it that was kind of cool, man. And like it was definitely the meanest guitar tone we had gotten at that point. And to this day, I still think that, with Castillo, he mixed and mastered, or Castillo mixed the Valley and Ken, David
Oh, I didn't
Castillo.
know that.
Yeah, yeah. So Mark engineered the Valley and Ken along with us, and then we sent him off to David Castillo, who does like Bloodbath and Catatonia and stuff like that. David's the man. Not only is he the man, he's one of the greatest human and nicest human beings on the planet. And a wealth of knowledge. He's fantastic. But yeah, he mixed the Valley, and once he kind of, he has a whole SSL desk, and like once he kind of got his mojo on it, it just brought the guitar tone out even more, and it was just there, and it had a thing. That whole album had a thing, and I think that's my favorite tone that we've had so far for sure. Just me personally.
Sure.
So,
did Jeff mix?
No. So this time
mixed the
around,
one?
it was Jeff and Drew both, I guess.
Yeah,
like
okay.
they were working in tandem, but it was mainly Drew. Like I guess he was the, Jeff was. Well, I don't know how they.
I don't either.
I don't know how they work it, but like we
either.
initially sought out Drew, and Jeff was on board helping and doing a lot of the stuff too. So they ended up mixing, and I think we had a good concept. At first, it was the mix. The first few mixes were a little overzealous. A little.
I was going to ask, are you having conversations with regards to things like HM2 should be layered, but not too hard?
They were great in going back and forth about. They would send a mix and we'd make notes, and they were fantastic about that. And they making little changes and stuff like here and there with frequencies. Never had a complaint or anything like that, and they were wonderful to work with. So. I get like there's it's just a different style of mixing. It's a different style of mixing altogether. Their two bus is like their sound. Whatever they run stuff into is that sound, and that's their signature sound. And I kind of had to learn how to work around their two bus to really get things to go the way like we wanted to hear it.
Sure.
So it had to manipulate it a little differently. Like the guitars, I had to have Jeff, like whatever they have on their two bus, it was making the guitars a little shrill. So I had Jeff, do it was like a 12 dB low pass up to like 6.5, which is kind of crazy for guitars. But you got to think though, it's a pretty shallow
it's
curve.
Not a brick.
It's still gonna pull the high end out.
Of course.
It worked out just right, as in it was just evened it out better. So so I had little things like that. I kind of had to like work around and get it to sit better with their two bus, and got what you got. And it's just, it is the most aggressive sounding album we've ever had for sure.
Agree.
Yeah.
It is crazy aggressive.
It's very angry. And no, excuse me. Phil's performance on it, like
Daddy's home.
Yeah, he not only was he was out for blood, but like I was pushing him too. So like I think Phil's very easy to record, and most of the time like he doesn't like he'll layer here and there for parts, but I had him I was like, let's layer this, and had him most of the vocals for the most part were through a Manley Gold.
Whoa,
which he's never done. Anything
Isn't he normally a 50,
the
an
7B.
SM7? Yeah.
But that's why the crispness of his vocals, like
it sounds so
pops.
good.
That mic rules to begin with, but having Phil on, I was like, because we tested out a few mics, with the tried and true 7B, had a Heiserman, which sounded great too, and then the Loughton 207 just to try it. The 207 was just too mid. It was just like it didn't capture enough of Phil. And this is tried and true. I know how it sounds.
Of course.
It sounded good. The Manley just is like, oh, there it is. With nothing done to it. It's like, oh, there it is. And, but I would have him go back and do, like, he would do this really, all the guttural stuff, the Manley, he would like kind of do it with the Manley right there and kind of half cup, like do a weird thing, because you can't hold that mic.
No.
But then I'd have him go back to and do lows with the 7B to get just a little more. And so it was a lot of work for Phil too, but damn, he showed up. So
he absolutely showed up.
And I would be recording him sometimes and I'm just like, God damn, dude. Like the parts in Visceral Wretch where he like does does the pitch shift his vocals. I'm like, everybody's gonna think we did that fake, but then he does it
really
live.
Did that.
Yeah, 100%. Watch him tonight. Dude, it's totally, that's all Phil, baby. He's just not human.
No. I mean, I think everyone has long thought
Yeah,
Like,
right.
what is that? What is that? Is that guy a robot? Like,
Yeah,
what the
dude,
fuck?
he is gifted when it comes to that, and we're lucky that he's still trucking along with us. So like that, yeah. And so that aside from that, like um, Sav showed up and did like Sav wrote some of the coolest hicks hooks on the record. Like the melody lead and like in Prisoner, that
Mhm.
melody. It's one of my favorite parts of I love melody. I'm like with the In Flames, all that shit. Like,
Without melody, what do you
yeah,
have?
and people were worried there's not going to be melody on this record. It's like there's still choruses that have some
Yes.
big melody parts in them and everything. And that chorus, like I love that hook, man.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, how you say try a bunch of things and let's see.
Just try it.
And that's what I told Sav. I was like, dude, let's just go over this 8 bars, just jam over it until if I hear something, I'll stop you and say, do that. Let's keep working on that. It's exactly what we did. He would just jam over it. And when he started playing that progression, I'm like, that sounds great. And that's what we build off of. So I just feel like telling someone, nah, we should just stick with this one thing is just, yeah, it's more work. And sometimes you don't want to do it, but you got to do it.
Got to do it.
You got to do it. You got to put in the work, man.
Was all this taking place at Lewis's?
No, I did it all
This
at
is
my
all
house.
at your house.
Yeah. The whole album's at my house.
I mean, obviously, you probably prefer the comfort of your own place versus a sterile studio, which I studios are a vibe,
Yeah.
and they do put you in a mindset. However, for me, it was always I hear the money,
Yeah,
and I hear the
that's kind of gone, the way of the Buffalo, man. I like just going like really forking out a ton of money to be at a studio for 2 months
right.
to do an album. Like, nah, like, the past few albums we've run out of room for a week to do drums or whatever, with Lewis and
course.
we, the Valley was at Warner Studios in Nashville, and then Ken drums were at Addiction Sound, which is awesome because using a whole desk, you do get a vibe, and it's cool. You get a whole room that has a vibe, and it would be great to do a whole album there, but it's like either you got to be so rehearsed that you get in there and get out, and you know what you want, because you can't really sit around and like, let's try this, this, and this, and this, like we were just talking about. Because like you said, there goes the dollar signs just floating off, and you're just spending money, and it's like at this point, a lot of studios now I feel like are moving out of the middle of cities and more to the outskirts, but just because it's cheaper too.
You're right.
And I think the more they can put savings towards people wanting to come there and track with them and stay the whole time, the better, because it's not hard for people to do a whole album and make it kind of sound sick. You know what I'm saying? Like anymore nowadays, and get away with a lot of stuff. A lot of smoke and mirrors.
I do think it would be cool to experience an old school, unlimited budget. We're going to go in with CLA and we're going to track a record for 3 months. My band back in 2005 recorded a record at Sound City, and our engineer was the bassist of a Canadian band called Saga, real proggy, right? But they're like Lord of the Rings version of Rush. Almost,
Oh, nice.
Right?
So they're like
They're
Blind
still
Guardian,
around,
but not as metal.
Kinda, yeah. And he told us this crazy story of when the Scorpions came to track there. They rolled up in a flatbed semi, and half-stack Marshalls were strapped to the bed.
Oh God!
And he was like, there was like 100 Marshall half stacks, 800s, strapped to the bed of this fucking thing. They spent 2 months getting guitar tones. 2 months, dude. And all it was the guitarists are in the studio. The roadies would bring in a half stack, plug it in, fire it up. They would hit one chord to go, nope, next. For 2 months.
That's back when labels had money.
For 2 months.
That's also back when artists were getting.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. If you give me $1 million as a sign-on bonus, I'm not going to pay attention to what the label's recouping because I just got $1 million, even though they are getting 10 when they recoup.
Right.
So, or even more money. It's like the worst. Well, I mean, look, we wouldn't be anywhere without Metal Blade. I get that, but labels, the whole, the way they recoup things, it's like a really bad loan with really bad interest
against you. I tell young bands, just go to a bank.
Yeah.
If you really want to get signed,
no, go to a bank. Yeah.
You'll get a better interest rate.
100%, man. And that's just it. Like, you know, Metal Blade has done nothing but play ball with us ever since, you know, when we've resigned and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But they've got to make a living too. I get that. They've got to,
Of course they
they've got to
do.
make money too. So we're not trying to take them for all they have or anything like that. But
No, but there are
there are
other
other labels,
nefarious
exactly.
labels. Yeah.
And like, you know, you take out $50,000 to record an album, you recoup the splits 1575 or 1585. Well, that whole dollar, we all know, like when they can make that dollar, they only take your 15% of that dollar and
That's
put
right.
it towards your debt. So it's just like that's going to take a while to pay off. And you know, we could have done it for cheaper somehow. You just got to think. You got to make you smart about the borrowing money from labels. And but luckily, Metal Blade's so cool about like letting us, like they let us like you know, if we need money to do a video and it's a little more than they usually pay, you know, for a video, but we have a vision we want to do, they're cool about it, and they don't complain.
I was gonna say, it seems like you guys are definitely doing what you want. I feel like I'm getting the band's vision of things.
Yes. And Metal Blade at this point, it's, you know, we've been with them long enough. It's like Cannibal. Cannibal's probably going to do what they want to an extent, or Behemoth and they are Metal Blade, aren't they? Yeah. Ooh, excuse me. But the whole process of like, you know, the way the record industry works now with the way streaming is taken over. Oh, that's a whole other thing.
No one buys records anymore. They do buy vinyl though.
They sure do. Which we have a lot of with us right now. So
Whitechapel.com as well.
Yeah, that is true. But the whole studio thing, man, like I would love, like, you know, when I don't know what album it was that Rush did, but they were just in this like log cabin, there's snow outside and everything. Like,
Moving pictures?
It may have been. I want to do that. Like I want to just send me to Finland.
Dude.
I want to sit
always
there
wanted to track at Pachyderm, where Nirvana made In Utero, which is that studio still around today. It was built in the 60s. It looks like 1968.
That's awesome.
And it's in the middle of the woods, snowy Minnesota mountains. And there's a kitchen, there's an apartment that you go stay at. And like, oh, I want that.
That's the first studio I got to experience that was kind of like that was randomly this old band I played in. This is before Whitechapel. They were kind of signed. This band, it was different for me. I was playing bass. I just wanted to try something different. It was very Silverchair kind of sounding band. Yeah, kind of like Incubus, Silverchairish. Yeah, the singer, phenomenal vocalist. His name's Matt Hewling. It's him and my best friend Jay Wright. Like I played drums with him a lot in other bands. He was drumming and I was playing bass, and Matt sang and played guitar. So somehow somebody in the band knows somebody that graduated from Full Sail, which, you know, that can be hit or miss.
Sure.
But and they got intern time. They like the studio's freed up, and the studio let them they's like, you can come and do 2 songs. And so this is a Dark Horse in Nashville.
No shit.
Yeah, so that's the first time I ever experienced a studio, and I was like, what the, you know, that was
a real studio.
Yeah. And although it's kind of weird because I feel like the drum room should be the control room, and the control room should be the drum room, because it's like the control room's so big and so tall, but it sounds killer, and it was fun getting to experience that as a kid. I was 17 or 18, you know, it's like getting to experience that.
That's so cool.
So we were there for like a few days doing that. The bad part is it ended up sounding really bad. It did not sound good. So that was just you know,
that's a little bit of a bummer.
Yeah, but you get you know, you got hooked up. That's part of the deal, you know.
Sure.
The guy tried, I guess, and he was new to it, but it was cool experiencing that. And then from then on, it's like that was another thing that fueled the fire for like the studio thing for me. It's like I've always had I want to know how this works. I want to know how this works.
Yep.
And you know, at home I build my own preamps and like compressors and stuff.
And you're
like
also
that.
Repairing your amps as well.
Yeah, repairing stuff and but I mean, I'm not like on the level of like what's the guy that does Acme and stuff like that. It's I forgot. Oh,
I know who you're talking about.
He's gonna kill me. Like he's that dude, Tony from Peepers. Like they're all like engineers, smart. Like
Kyle Rhodes.
Yeah, Kyle. Yeah, absolutely. And me, I'm just like kind of below that. Like the math is where you where I got a little. I mean, I try my best to understand it, and I even like went back through on like Khan Academy online. You can go
Uh-huh.
back through and just pay a little money, do some classes, like, and just to brush up on some of the math that I needed to know. And but just even building those kits, stuff you learn is invaluable because then you can troubleshoot shit
Yep.
that you never thought you were going to be able to troubleshoot. And there's like I feel like a lot of people probably don't have that mindset, but like if anybody did, it's worth understanding kind of how things work. You know, like you open up the back of a quad, it's kind of hard to see because everything's small and surface mounted and like
Of course.
but you open up an older head, you know, you can learn a lot, man. Just don't have it on.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't kill yourself.
But no, I'd love to go just sit in the woods, do an album for like 3 months, man. But if we want to do a metal album, though, you probably got to put us in like, I don't know, Transylvania or something. I don't know. So let's find a castle in Transylvania.
Iceland?
Yeah, Iceland.
Sweden?
Yeah, to Sweden. That's where Castillo's from, actually. He has a
Cool.
He has a really nice studio there. But yeah, just to be, you know, I just don't know if bands of our size in this genre are really doing stuff like that anymore.
No.
I'm sure country artists might do it. You know,
Country artists might do it, or Meshuggah did it on the Violent Sleep of Reason.
Oh yeah, that was all like most of that was like live, like recorded. Yeah,
Yeah.
They needed to sit around and fucking do that though if they were going to do
Yeah.
it. Like that's a testament, man, to like some.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh God, can you imagine just like you fuck up one part? Well, you know, I'm sure they went back and touched up a part here and there.
I'm
like,
pretty sure they did.
yeah, but I mean,
But still,
the vibe's there though. Like,
oh
100%.
yeah, that's
yeah.
the best vibe ever. I love that record so much.
That's hard for me to find a sugar record I don't like, man.
Mhm.
You know, everybody complains about the sound quality of the record sometimes. I'm like, who gives a fuck? You see them live, like it doesn't matter what they're just listen to the music. Like you just think about what it could be like live. I'm not saying these records sound bad, but like, you know, some of them aren't as aggressive as they sound live. That's that's just part of it. But they are engineered well. They are played well. That's not a question at all. But they have their reasons for doing the things they want to do or the way they want to do them. So it's like, yeah, I don't care. Like there's still something on every Meshuggah album that I love, and it's always the majority of the album too. So
yeah.
And I feel like I'm yapping your head off right now, but like you got questions by any means. You know, in regards to the recording process, the only other thing that was like wild that we got to do, which was kind of fun because we were talking about the budget you can get from a label.
Of course.
Okay, well, we didn't need as much this time around, obviously, but it's like, let's rent some cool gear. Nashville's right down the road. Let's go to Blackbird.
Oh, what'd you rent?
So I rented like
Mark GC Plus.
No, I threw that in the trash. I think. Sorry, fellas, it's not that good sounding, but to each their own.
Yeah.
No, we rented 4 channels of 1073, like vintage 1073.
Oh, you can rent. Well,
yeah.
Of course you can. It's Nashville.
Yeah, and then I got 4 channels of the. I'm gonna butcher the model name of this, but it's the older model of the Neve channel strips. But I'm not even gonna try to remember this right now because I had it like to a T for forever. But like, it was different knobs on it as opposed to the typical knobs on the 1073 style ones.
Okay. Like a 1084 or something? Or?
It was no, it wasn't. It was before these. It was before the 1084s. Before all that, it was I want to say like the 66 something or 10s. I can't remember, dude. I'm never gonna remember this right now. But and so I used 4 of the Neve for tom tops and 4 of the Neve for tom bottoms.
Cool.
And then I have a bunch of my own stuff. Like I used we rented I rented an actual like AKG used to make their 4-on-4 mics and it had a brass capsule in them.
That's right.
Well, you'll find one now.
The old boys.
Yeah, they're not cheap. Like if you find a used one now in a good condition, but I rented one of those from them because I wanted to. You can't really use it while tracking, but like for when you sample your kit, I put one. Here's the snare. I took one and put it figure 8. The set the diaphragm to figure 8 polar pattern and put it. Here's the snare and put it sideways like I have that up against the snare, along with the top and bottom mics to get some more body in the snare. So obviously, when you're tracking, you're picking up a bunch of bullshit.
Of course.
But, and then I rented 2 Josephson mics from them, the E22s. For the snare. And
you rented a bunch of cool shit.
I was like, I'm gonna do this and go all out, because like I said, we're not the budget's so cheap
But
this
you're
time.
at home.
Yeah, and shout out to Blackbird, their rental department and the guy that runs it is the shit. He's just the coolest guy ever. He hooked us up, was lenient with us. A module went down. He shipped one out the next day.
Damn.
They're the shit, man. So, but like. We did those mics. I did some crazy Neumanns too, but you can ask our drummer this, dude. I was doing Neumanns for these overheads, these tube condensers, and I could not get them to even out, and the stereo field was just like not there. I was like, what is going on? Like my ears playing tricks on me. What is happening? I couldn't get them to sound even. I had to keep having to gain one up more. I was like, what is going on? And I had him move it like 1,000 times. We tried a bunch of stuff. Turns out one of them were bad.
Fuck.
So after 2 hours of trying that, I was like, whatever. So I used for the high overheads, I used like Austrian 808, 818s.
Yeah.
Those are great.
Killer.
Yes. Killer mics. I buy a pair of them. You can use them for so much shit.
I love them on guitar cabs.
Yes. And have you messed with the technology that you can like do the 3
So I have not.
Okay.
So that guy, I don't know his name. I apologize to him if he probably won't see this, but he had the prototype at one of at a NAMM in like 2017.
Right.
And I was at the JST booth and he goes, I want to show you something that I think is really cool. I think you'd like it. I didn't get it. I didn't get it for after the fact.
Right.
So he showed me, it was the proto mic looked janky as hell, to be fair.
Fair enough.
And the software was fairly janky as I remember it.
Right.
And he showed me kind of the idea, and I was like, cool.
Yeah.
And then that was kind of it. I didn't understand what they were going for and the implications of how that could be cool after the fact.
Dude, it
My bad.
yeah, it's if you're trying to save time, I mean, you literally get 3 room configurations with one setup. And for drums, and it sounds great. It sounds great.
Killer.
And I'm just like, this is great. This is awesome. Not only do they sound good by themselves, like the fact that you can do that with them, and there's a little bit of a learning curve, but it's like, just figuring out how to set it up. Like it's worth it. But I wound up using those for the overheads anyway, and the rest of the setup was pretty basic as far as like, spot micing everything and just I'm trying to think if we used anything else cool. Like I have a bunch of Cappy pre's and like BAE and stuff like that, just because most of the stuff I already had, and the preamps are just not cheap at all, like good ones.
They are not.
And especially, have you seen the prices they're charging on old Neve ones nowadays? God almighty, dude.
Yeah, a buddy of mine a long time ago used to buy up closing studios inventory. So we used to be working out, and we used to see pallets of Pultecs and Neve 1073s show up. They're in a warehouse right now. Pallets of them, vintage, clean museum pieces. And whenever he wants to sell one 1073 to get a vintage Strat, he does that.
Tell him to sell me something for cheap, and I'll give him a handshake. I don't know.
He would never. Yeah.
Sorry, dude.
Not selling anything cheap.
I'm not buying. Yeah, I'm not buying look. I saw Mark sent me a reverb post. It was like two original 1073 channel strips. It was like almost $40,000.
Yeah.
I'm like, you guys are fucking high. Like, someone will probably pay that because they don't know any better, but
That's right.
this shit rules, but it's not worth that.
It's not.
To a collector, maybe, but like...
But you don't listen to something and go, yeah, it'd be better if it was a vintage 1073.
Exactly. Mark and I have shot out tons of shit where it's like, we like your Neve that you had built by one of your...
this heritage is just as good as this fucking...
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times, too, if you really care to look into it, it's only a few components you can change out to make things better.
My issue with the old stuff, having worked out of a studio in Shoreline, is that shit was always breaking.
Oh, yeah.
And it was noisy.
Yeah.
And matched pairs were not
bullshit.
matched pairs after, of course, 40 years.
Not a thing.
Like, it was such a pain. Oh, don't use that channel. Channel 26 is dead, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. No, that's why, like, if I spent the money, if I really wanted to spend the money on, say, 8 channels of Neve, I'd just BAE. Get a brand new, sounds just like a Neve. It's built just like a Neve.
I use an actual AMS Neve, a new 1073 stereo preamp for my desk mic every single day, and
those
I love
are fantastic.
it.
They sound great. All the new Neve stuff sounds great. And the only, like, the warm audio one, like their 1073, I wasn't super keen on. Like, it was like almost there, but not quite.
I think for the price, it's fantastic.
Yes, I'll give you that. The price is great on that because I tried the 2-channel 1073 like channel strip, and I had it for a while. And the EQ alone, like, if I'm being honest, I don't use the 1073 for the EQ most of the time, like, at all. I
only do it on my own voice.
Yeah, there you go.
Because so I don't have to do it in post, so I can just track and then I fly it in the video editor, and I'm done.
Yeah, that makes sense. The EQ is kind of weird on it.
Yeah.
For me. So most of the time I just want the pre more than anything.
Of course.
But which is why I love the BAE stuff. I could just, if I wanted to, let's just get 8 channels of BAE, just the pre's. That's all I need. Which, when it comes to the Neve stuff and building stuff, Mark and I came across this website. It's like DIYRacked.com. So
did he send me a link?
He may have.
I think he might have sent me a link for that.
So I was like, this can't be true, but like, they had this DIY kit for 8 channels of Neve, okay? And they will get you a personal shopper to go and get all the parts.
To go and get.
Yeah, and all they do is fill out the shopping carts, and you check out and pay for it. I was like, this is... I don't know. So I contacted him and started asking questions. Is it actually 24 volts? It doesn't step it up, does it? Does it, asked him a few more things about it, like, and it's all the real deal. Like, it's all, like, it's.
Did you build one?
I'm what, 3/4 the way done with it, probably.
Oh.
I've got to do, I did all the amp channel PCBs, but I've got to do they're legit, the potentiometers are just legit step, like they have, like, each one has a resistor on it, so I'm gonna have to go through and solder on each resistor for each.
Sick.
Yeah. So but it's like, if that is legit 8 channels of Neve that I just got for $2,500 and some time, okay, sign me up. I'll build another one. That's 16 channels of Neve.
Damn.
Yeah. So as soon as I get it done, I'm gonna take it to Mark's and let him mess with it too and see what he thinks. But it's like, if it looks like it sounds like, all the parts are Neve. It's like, it's what you would use to build, a Neve channel. So we'll see what happens. But if it's like, I think because the power supply is right, all that stuff's right, all the transformers are correct. Like, each channel has an input and output transformer. It's like, yeah. So we'll see what happens, man. I'm stoked on it, and it's like, otherwise that would cost you 18 grand probably. At least, yeah, just for the pre's. But
yeah.
No, just the building stuff alone, I think, this saved me a lot of money over time. Yeah. Hairball audio, like they.
Oh yeah, Hairball's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But dude, I won't keep you any.
You gotta play a show.
I could nerd talk all day long. I don't want to keep you any longer. No, dude, thank you for having me on.
Dude,
I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for coming by.
Yeah.
And I hope your tour continues to crush. Congratulations on the new album.
Thank you.
And I'm going to go get something to eat and then see this guy play. So, yeah.
Thank you all.
See you, everybody.
See you guys.